an orchestral version of Disco Heat. Suddenly, I was surrounded by the gay pride parade. Everyone started jumping up and down, blowing police whistles. I thought I must be the only straight guy in the room besides my brother. The truth was, as much as I loved Stephen and accepted that he was gay, I wasn't entirely comfortable with homosexuality. This was 1980. None of us had heard of AIDS yet. No one in our lives was gay. Gay people lived somewhere else. So the idea that my own brother was gay was something I struggled with at first. I couldn't call my friends and discuss Stephen's situation with them. They're good guys, but we were a bunch of Italian guys from Long Island. We called each other fags as an insult. I didn't see the upside of telling them. After a while, though, I started to feel like the closeted gay guy in the locker room, who joined in the jokes because he didn't want anyone to know his secret. My mom, as strong as she was the day Anthony told her, had a hard time with it too. I remember sitting at the kitchen table with her one night, shortly after finding out, and she asked me, "Do you know about Stephen?" I nodded, and she just started crying. Then she said, "What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong?" I told her she didn't do anything. She raised 3 boys. 2 were straight and 1 was not. She hadn't done anything different with Stephen than she had with me and Anthony. How could it be your fault? I asked her. She seemed comforted by that. Stephen and I never did have a conversation about it. The fact that he was gay always went unspoken. Instead, he'd just talk about his life in other ways that let me know he wasn't trying to hide anything anymore. While I was in college and still living at home, Stephen usually came back to Long Island once a month or so to visit. He'd arrive on Sunday morning with his friend Howard. They never stayed overnight, probably to avoid having to answer questions about sleeping arrangements. We all assumed Howard was his boyfriend, but Stephen never made a declaration, and we never asked. Looking back, it seems crazy. My mom had no problem hiding in Anthony's closet to catch him smoking dope, but she couldn't bring herself to ask my brother if he had a boyfriend. Howard was 10 years older than Stephen and looked exactly like the Marlboro Man, with a chiseled, weathered face. My family loved when he came over, especially my mom. He was such a good cook, she even let him help her in the kitchen. I know this is going to make me sound like a dick, but the 2 of them were the ungayest gay guys I'd ever seen. There was nothing flamboyant about either one of them. When Howard and my brother stopped seeing each other a couple of years later, and my brother brought someone else home, the dynamic was the same. Anyone who came in the house with him was loved and accepted. Nothing about it was ever awkward. What I enjoyed most about Stephen's visits was watching him with Anthony's son. I always remember thinking to myself, this is going to be awesome when I get older, have kids, and move to the suburbs. Stephen is going to be that fantastic, magical uncle who comes to visit every weekend. I thought we had time for all of that.
And now, Conversations with the Booey.
Hey, Anthony, it's Gary. So what do you remember most about growing up with me? Because you're a lot older than me. What do you remember most about us being in the house together? Do you remember the day you tried to take me to Woodstock?
Yeah, I do. That was funny. I was upset. All my friends were going. I could have been more than 15 years old. But a lot of my friends had took off and hitched up to Woodstock. And I turned on the TV, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And Mom and Dad knew that I was going to take off, so they left me with you. Finally, I just said, "Hey, pack your bags. We're going to Woodstock." And you went in your room, packed up a little handkerchief with some toys in it, stuck it on a stick like a hobo, and we walked down to Southern State Parkway, and we hitched for about, half an hour. And as we were standing there, I was realizing how my father was going to kill me for taking my 5-year-old brother to Woodstock. And so I got scared, turned around, and went home.
Do you think now, thinking about it, do you think that they knew you were thinking about going and they left me with you so you wouldn't go?
Yeah, I do. In fact, later on, they told me that they did that on purpose.
That's great. Now, one of the stories I have in the book is the story of Mom jumping out of the closet when you came home from a concert. Now, did she do stuff like that all the time? And that must have scared the shit out of you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She used to spy on me all the time to see what me and my friends were doing. She was always tracking everything I was doing, and probably for good reason. And having said that, it was a very loving house. It wasn't that Mom and Dad didn't love us. And thank God for Dad, because Dad was the anchor. Dad was the voice of rationality. And in fact, my whole life is based on Dad. I mean, everything that I've aspired to live up to was because of him. Mom taught me how to look for love and how love is more important than anything else. And that was probably the most important lesson I ever learned as a child, and it came from her.
if there's one thing that Mom is probably known for with neighbors and friends and family, it's probably her generosity. And not just like giving stuff generosity, but her time, going to help people when they're sick, that sort of thing.
Oh, everybody loved Mom. I mean, they didn't see her in the house. They didn't see what was going on in there. And everybody loved Dad, too. I mean, Dad was always the guy that would always go help anybody in the family with a crisis, and so would Mom.
The last question I'm going to ask you, Anthony, is when I first got on the radio, my very, very first started working on the radio, what do you remember, if anything, about it?
I remember that you got a job. You have always been afraid of heights. And I remember that you got the job as the traffic reporter, and you had to go up in the helicopter. And I remember turning on the radio because I was so excited that my brother was on the radio. And you were up there doing the traffic report, and I could hear your voice quivering. I don't think other people could hear it, but I was able to tell that you were not comfortable doing that. And that's the thing that I remember. And then I remember you getting on the Howard Stern show, and I had listened to him a couple of times and thought it was really cool. And then you got on the show, and I was just amazed that you got on the Howard Stern show so quick out of college. I mean, you really stepped in it rather quickly. You were in the right place at the right time with the right skills. So that was very fortunate for you.
All right, great. Thanks, Anthony. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Chapter 5. Casey Kasem, Countdowns, and Columbia House.
Music was incredibly important in my family. It was always blaring in the house, even at the most insane moments. Often it seemed like the only thing that actually put us all on the same page. We had one record player, and it was housed in a cabinet that was as big as a piece of furniture, like something you'd keep in the kitchen to store all your really good china. It was waist high, had 4 sliding doors, and was stained a light brown and nearly covered an entire wall of the living room. It would have fit perfectly on the set of Mad Men. At opposite ends of the piece were the speakers, also built into the cabinet. These were killer speakers. You could see them vibrate if you turned the music up too loud. The receiver and the tuner sat in the middle compartment on a shelf. Below them was the turntable. You could pile a stack of records at the top of the spindle, and as the one on the bottom finished playing, another would drop down. If the bottom stack became too big, the music sounded like it was being played at half speed. A few years ago, I saw the same system in an antique store. The owners called it an Art Deco piece and were selling it for $7,000. My parents and my brothers each had their own pile of albums.